Sorry. Have I got it up there? Yellow one? Green one. What is, sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, I wasn't supposed to be working in a village. I was all set because of the education that I received in India, which was very snobbish, elitist, expensive, conceited, insufferable. And I was impossible as a youngster because I just didn't listen to my mother. And the family was forcing me to become a diplomat or a doctor or a teacher or a business man. And then I went to a village for the first time in 1965, and I saw hunger and starvation and death for the first time, and it changed my life because I was wondering what education I had received when I hadn't even seen the other part of India, the poor part of India, the impoverished part of India, the exploited part of India. And I saw hunger and starvation for the first time. And I came back and I told my mother, I am going to live and work in a village. She went into a coma. She said, what is this? Your best job is laid out for you. Everything is laid out for you. You can take whatever job you want. And all of a sudden, you're going to a village and what is this? Are you going to tell us something? What are you going to do in a village? I said, I want to become an unskilled laborer digging wells. She didn't speak to me for many years because she thought I had let my family down. But the family said, oh, youngster, he'll get over it. Give him time. But for 5 years, I was exposed to the most extraordinary knowledge and skills that very poor people have. Knowledge, skills, wisdom that very, very poor people have who have no prospects, no money. And I said, extraordinary. Why don't we start a college only for the poor? What the poor thought was important would be reflected in a college. And why don't I call it the Barefoot College? Went to this village for the first time. Elders came to me and said, are you running from the police? I said, no. You failed in your exam? I said, no. You didn't get a government job? I said, no. What are you doing here? Because you get the most expensive education and now you want to come back to a village. Is there something wrong with you? You're not telling us? I said, no, this is what I exactly want to do. So then they said, they gave me some advice, which I still follow today. Never let anyone with a degree and qualification come into your college. So it's the only college in India that if you should have a master or a PhD, you're disqualified to come. You have to be a cop-out or a washout or a dropout to come. You have to be someone who works with his hands. You have to have someone who believes in the dignity of labor. And intellect is not as important for these poor people as labor. We also defined professionalism. What is a professional? Who's a professional? Professional is someone who has a combination of competence, confidence, and belief. A water diviner is a professional. A traditional midwife is a professional. A traditional bone setter is a professional. You have these people all over the world with tremendous respect the community has. So when we said that, we started the college 500 miles southwest of Delhi. It's a college, we call it Barefoot because it's a place where we honor, respect, knowledge and skills. Millions of people walk barefoot. It's a college because it's a place for learning and unlearning. It's a place where the teacher is the learner and the learner is the teacher. And it's the only place where we don't give a degree because the certification should be coming from the community you serve. When we said that, They said, show us what this is all about. You're saying something which is extraordinary, can you prove it on the ground? So we built the first barefoot college using people who still can't read and write. Where is it written in the world that just because you can't read and write, you can't become an engineer, you can't become a designer, you can't become an architect? Where is it written? So we said, we will use only barefoot architects, people who can't read and write today, to build the college. This college has been built at $1.50 a square foot, still standing today, hasn't collapsed, no engineer, no architect was involved. When it came to the roof, all the women told the men, clear out, because we don't want to share this technology with the men. It's a technology only with the women. They put jaggery, a mixture of urine, and God knows what else, but it doesn't leak. And for 3 years, they took 3 years to build the college. It's a place where we use traditional knowledge. When we said the problem of water, Rajasthan, I've been there for 40 years now. Sometimes it doesn't rain for 5 years. 5 years. If it doesn't rain here for 1 month, it's a national calamity. 5 years. So we said, what is the technology we should use? They said, use rainwater harvesting. So it's the only college still today where all the roofs are connected underground into a tank which is 400,000 liters under the stage. And over the stage, people sit and watch performances. It's the only college in India which is in the 21st century. We have video conferencing, optical fiber cable. Everything is sometimes faster than Delhi. It's a place where we have a courier service that should you want to buy some Tilonia handicrafts, which are quite famous, you can buy it, and within 7 days, this itsy-bitsy post office will reach you the handicrafts within 7 days anywhere in the world. It's a college where we have an audiovisual unit, we make our own films, we have our own films, we have an acupuncture unit, we have a radio. But the best part is that it's the only college in India which is fully solar energized. All the power for the college comes from the sun. And the person who did it is someone who has still only done 8 years of schooling. This Bhagwat Nandan is the first barefoot engineer. He still looks after a temple, and he has solar electrified the whole campus. There's 45 kilowatts of panels on the roof. Everything works off the sun. We also went into this situation of women. We thought that this tradition, that the role of women has to change. It's not only making handicrafts that you see there. It's not only making toys, but we started giving them roles which are traditionally for men. If you happen to come to the college, you will get solar cooked food, 60 meals twice a day. But the beauty is that this was actually fabricated by women who are illiterate. They are fabricating the most sophisticated parabolic Schaeffler solar cooker in the world. And they are unfortunately almost half German. They are so precise. You don't have Indian women so precise. We have a grandmother who's illiterate, who's a dentist. And you have a solar-operated dentist chair. She looks after 7,000 children, the teeth of 7,000 children. And maybe, inshallah, in 6 months, we might have them doing a root canal for you. So if you want a cheap root canal, come. They are also doing roles that traditionally for men. They are repairing their own hand pumps. Never ever thought of women repairing their own hand pumps. You have menstruation problems, so they're making their own sanitary pads, inexpensive sanitary pads. They are doing weaving, which is actually the role of men. Horrified, all the men in Rajasthan, to see a woman on a weaving machine. And it's the only college in India where we are training women to be engineers. We have trained women from all over India. In Rajasthan, where they use solar lanterns to increase their income. And in Ladakh, up in Kashmir, where at -40, you have solar lighting in that village, in that house. And we asked that woman, what is the benefit that you've got from solar energy? And she said, it's the first time I can see my husband's face in winter. Can you imagine for 6 months being on only candlelight at minus 40 outside? Miracle. These are the women from all over India who come and train as solar engineers. How do we train? We train through sign language. We don't use the written or spoken word. Hands, sight, sound. Can you imagine someone who's illiterate, who's never been to school or college, never been outside a village, through sign language, training them to be solar engineers to solar electrify their own village? All over India, they have solar electrified villages. We've come to the conclusion that men are untrainable. Men are restless, men are ambitious, men are compulsively mobile, and they all want a certificate. And the moment you give a man a certificate in a developing country, he leaves the village within days looking for a job in a city. So when you go to a very remote village anywhere in the world, you'll find very young people and very old people. So why are we training young men? You're losing them. So what do? We train grandmothers. We are training, tomorrow I'll talk about that, but we are training grandmothers from all over the world to solar electrify their own village. 60% of children who don't go to school in the morning because they can't, looking after cattle, goats, sheep. So we started the night schools of Thilonia, schools at night for the convenience of the child. And they're all solar lit, all made by barefoot engineers. And they're all solar lit schools. 7,000 children go to these schools, all solar lit schools. The beauty is that every 3 years, between ages 6 and 14, they have an election. And they elect a prime minister. The prime minister is 12 years old. She looks after 20 goats in the morning, but she's prime minister in the evening. She has a cabinet. And the cabinet, Minister for Energy, Minister for Women, Minister for Education, and they meet every month to decide, monitor, and supervise their own schools. 5 years ago, the Prime Minister went to get the World's Children's Prize from the Queen of Sweden. Never been outside her village, never been outside the city. First time going to Sweden, wasn't dazzled at all. So the Queen turned to me, there she is, and said, "Can you ask where this 12-year-old girl has so much confidence? What's the story? What's behind it?" So I asked her, I said, how are you so confident? She looks at the Queen straight in the eye and says, "Please tell her I'm the Prime Minister." Wherever there's a percentage of illiteracy, we use puppetry. The puppet to solve our problems, puppet to be interactive, puppet to talk about the problems that communities face. This man is Joachim Chacha. He's 300 years old and he knows everything about all what's happening. He knows the gossip of the village. He knows who's fighting with each other. He knows who's run off with his wife. He knows everything what's happening in the village. And we use him to solve all our problems. He's my psychoanalyst, he's my doctor, he's my teacher, he's my donor. Night, we have these puppet shows with solar light. Over 100,000 people every year we reach through solar lighting. Thousands of people come and watch, and it's interactive. They can easily stop and say, "Look, tell me I've got problems of pregnancy with my wife, what should I do?" Then this puppet answers where you should go, what you should do. These puppets are made out of recycled World Bank reports. We had the Dalai Lama, very fortunate, to come and see us. And we made a puppet of him, and he'll show it later. There's also a place where we use solar for desalination. It's the only place in India where we are using solar-operated desalination plants. We have located about 5 plants in the Sambar Lake, where the TDS is over 13,000, almost seawater. And we take deserted buildings, make them into solar-operated reverse osmosis plants, and we actually train a woman to operate the plant. Grandmother only. We won't take young girls, we won't take men. We'll only train grandmothers to be solar engineers. Costs us about $50,000 in 6 months. You can have a fully solar-operated reverse osmosis plant giving potable water to 6,000 people every day. That's him with his puppet. He said something very profound to me. He said, now that you've shown the Barefoot College working in practice, let's see if the researchers and the professionals and the experts can make it work in theory. Impossible. We are doing everything wrong. Everything wrong, but the results are coming out right. So, I'll end with a quotation of Mahatma Gandhi. He said, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. Thank you.